Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the Bloviating Zeppelins Berserk Bobcats Lunar Radio Show, live and direct right here on the SHR Media Network, where I am ensconced indubitably within the sumptuous and palatial SHR Media Network studios, 2 miles east of the belly of the beast, the locus of evil on the entire left coast, the Bill Mill, the Capitol building of Sacramento, California, where late at night as I leave here I can hear the odoriferous stench of sulfur and brimstone as I leave the show. And it is, trust me, the entire locus of evil. You got a belly up to the bar, we've kept your seat, and it's great to see you back. Angel's going to be your bartendress tonight. She pours with the best of them, and the lava lamp is in fact lighted too. My left, your right. It would be nice if I would turn on the screen so that people could see. There we go. I'm here, and there's the lava lamp. And what that means is you can listen and chat at shrmedia.com. And you can watch on the SHR Media Facebook page. Go there quick like a bunny. And you can also watch on the SHR Media YouTube channel. I got to tell you this, though. We don't water our drinks, just like we don't water our conversation. Politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law. We talk about it all. Here at the saloon, nothing is sacred. The speech is free, but the booze, she is not. All we ask is that you flush the damn toilet. Jiggle the handle. Don't forget to tip your waitress. Tonight, it is December 11th, the year of our Lord 2018. An astounding day, an astounding time, and it's just less than 2 weeks for Christmas. And all I can say is I hope you have all your Christmas presents picked out. I hope you have all your Christmas cards taken care of and sent out, because if they're not sent out by now, you're going to have a real big problem trying to get there on time. Hey, in the chat room, welcome to Mary Brockman, Michael John, Pasqua, Traveling Cynic, and 2 viewers who are unmasked because we don't are masked because we don't unmask them here. So, folks, tonight, I have something very special and very unusual. Unusual insofar as the topic doesn't deal directly with politics per se, but it's a topic near and dear to my heart. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we're going to go off script again in order to bring you someone, well, completely different. No politics, like I say in the first hour, just plain old American strength, knowledge, and skill. Tonight in the saloon, I'd like to welcome a man doing an incredibly important job that you never really think about except when you don't get your cars and you don't get your gifts or your oil or your plastics or your electronics or your cell phones or your furniture or your tablets or your roofing materials or your cement, your wood, your food. I think you see where I'm going with this, or maybe you don't. In which case, I'd like to introduce to the saloon Captain Ed Enos, a professional harbor pilot, to the Bloviating Zeppelins Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show. And it's great to have you, sir, here, and welcome aboard.
Aloha, Mark, and Merry Christmas, or as they say here in Hawaii, Mele Kalikimaka.
Mele Kalikimaka? Well. Yes, Mele Kalikimaka, back to you.
Very good.
A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, when I was in the 5th grade, I had to learn how to say that for a Christmas play. Before I get into your particulars, and they are naturally spectacular, I'd like to get to the reason that I asked you here tonight and why I think your presence here is important. And that's from this. A long time ago, again in a galaxy far, far away, I considered attending the California Maritime Academy, which is here in Vallejo. That's in the Bay Area, which is a little bit east of San Francisco. It's called the Bay Area.
Yeah.
In the early 1970s, and it's the sea, the ocean, and when I drive to visit my girlfriends in San Francisco, I'd always pass the exit to the academy, which is near the Carquinez Bridge. And I kept thinking,
yes, sir.
How cool would it be to journey all around the world on ships and see everything there is to see, you know, as kind of like the ideal cool job for a guy in his late teens and early 20s. And the other thing that nabbed my interest was, back then, at least, we used to have a real serious naval presence in the Bay Area, to include, and I don't know if you're familiar with this, but I sure became so, there was a bar in Vallejo called the Horse and Cow, and it was a U.S. Navy submariners bar.
Yep, and
okay.
it was still there when I was there.
And my friends and me would see it on the south side of Interstate 80, usually in the fog as we sped west on 80 towards San Francisco from Sacramento, and that's where I grew up. So we'd see this sign, Horse and Cow, and then wonder, why is there a big-ass submarine model on the roof of this bar?
Yep.
So we found out one time when we dared to go into this bar. Okay, so here's 3 college guys with long, late 60s, early 70s hair in a crew-cut Navy submariners bar. You know, it was cool and all, but yeah, we ordered a beer, and we also felt kind of empirically necessary. We felt this kind of impulse to vacate at damn near light speed. Did they serve us because we were so ignorant? Did they serve us because we were so naive? I'll never know. But we drank up, paid up, and exited, and Chuck's 1970 dark green Ford Capri, I was stuffed kind of unceremoniously back in that. The bar's gone now. It was historical, sadly missed. I don't know if you ever read the book Blind Man's Bluff about the submariner.
No, I have not.
They make mention of that. And I consider it an honor to have actually walked into a submariner's bar. Well, things didn't work out for attending the Maritime Academy, you know, like tuition and a job and stuff like that. But huge ships have always been kind of near and dear to my heart, both military and commercial, which is where you come in now, Captain Ed Enos. And I found you on Twitter, and I followed you because I thought, oh, that's the cool lifestyle that I was thinking about. And it's like what I could have been, what I could have seen if I'd done that kind of stuff. And that's why you immediately resonated with me. And, you know, of course, I didn't have the guts to do that. I got kicked into another life path. So that's kind of why I admire you. I also found maritimehawaii.com after I went to your Twitter site. And it has some information on there that I'd like to read to the viewers. It says you have 22 years working as a harbor pilot, 9 years sailing the deep sea as a ship's officer, 4 years at the Maritime Academy. We'll get back to that. 4 years at sea, about working aboard charter boats, tugs, research ships, and yachts. And I thought, man, that is a cool CV. Then I thought, okay, harbor pilot. Here's what I remember about harbor pilots. Back in, when was it, 1983, the Enterprise, CVN 65, entered San Francisco Bay in April of 1983, and it was grounded. And the captain was removed out of that because of that grounding. But I remember in that news article that they had a harbor pilot on the bridge of the carrier. And again, that made me ask, what the hell is a civilian doing on a Navy ship in San Francisco? But that's part and parcel of being a harbor pilot. So I have to ask you right off the bat, what is a harbor pilot? And what do you do?
Well, it's a great question, and it's amazing how many people don't know anything at all about us. And even those who know about us aren't really quite sure what it is we do. And even people in the industry who know who we are and what we do because of the way we work, they're not right there. And so even they're kind of like wondering, what does that job entail?
Right.
But the short answer is we're like valet parking. And
okay.
if you can imagine, let's just say I put you on a big oil tanker and I lift you up like an alien spaceship and I dropped you somewhere in the middle of, say, Piraeus, Greece. And I said, okay, Mark, I want you to take this ship inside there and go dock the ship, port side 2 over at dock number 41. And you look at me and you're like, where the heck is that?
What?
So you think about all the ships that are traveling all over the world that have crews, officers on board, who are of all kinds of nationalities. They're carrying cargo from one place halfway around the world to another place, and they are visiting ports that they may have never been in before.
Right.
And they're in a place where whatever the language is there, it's maybe their second language, or maybe they can't speak or even understand it at all. So what a harbor pilot does is, and this is true everywhere, we go out to meet the ship at a safe distance offshore, a couple of miles. We motor on out there in a specially designed boat. We go alongside the ship. Now, this is the bizarre part. We go alongside the ship when it's moving through the water several miles out at sea, and we jump off the pilot boat onto a little rope wooden ladder that's dangling down off the side of the ship, and we climb up. We go on board, we walk up to the bridge, we stand there, we talk to the captain for a few minutes. He tells us a little bit about his ship, and we tell him a little bit about where we're going. And then at the appropriate time, we say, okay, Cap, I got it. And then I take control, and I'm driving the ship into the harbor, and I'm using a little handheld VHF radio to talk to the tugboats to help, come alongside and put up lines and push and pull and take us to the berth wherever we're going, and we put it alongside the pier, and then working with the captain, we tie the ship up, and when I'm all done, I walk off and I go home. And when the ship is ready to sail again, it's just reverse. We go back on board, we let all the mooring lines go, the tugs pull us off the dock, we take it back out at sea, and we go past the very last sea buoy, we call it. The pilot boat comes back alongside, we say goodbye. We make sure they're headed out in a safe direction, safe, deep water, and then we climb off the ship back onto our pilot boat, and we go back back to the pilot office or off to the next ship. So we're there primarily for safety, to make sure that the port doesn't suffer any damages, or ship hitting a pier and going aground.
Right.
We're there to make sure the ship itself and the crew and or passengers that are on board are safe. We're also there to ensure that the movement of this one ship around other ships that may be moving, or tugs or barges, it is efficient in terms of getting in or out around other traffic, or if there's some kind of delay for some reason, either we're waiting to go in and somebody's delaying us, on their way out, or whatever it is. But just having people, the local people that live and work in that port, in that harbor, in that city, that are on board helping to manage what as you can imagine, is a pretty high-risk situation. It's a system that works, and it works in ports all around the world. It's what everybody expects and wants and desires to happen. It's a job that we're heavily managed, or there's a lot of oversight by the Coast Guard and the Port Authority, or the people that manage the harbor that you work in. And we're part of the greater team of that harbor. Like you said, San Francisco Bay, there's the Coast Guard and the state regulators and the tug companies and the tour companies and the other shipping companies and agents, everybody that's using that port has to sort of all get along and cooperate and collaborate to make the port run efficiently and, most of all, safely. That's why we're there.
So basically it's like trying to jump from a bobbing boat onto some hanging ladder or a rope. I've seen harbor pilots get on ropes that were dropped. Very rarely do I ever see that you have a nice welded set of stairs to grab onto and walk comfortably up to the deck. So just getting on the damn boat is kind of a problem in the first place. And then whatever it is that you jump on, you have to be as familiar as possible with the nature of the handling characteristics of something from, I don't know, what's the minimum tonnage that you need a harbor pilot for?
Well, the rule that's a good question, but the rule is it's different everywhere. Every harbor has a little different, set of rules that each state and each port authority manages. And then the Coast Guard, like I said earlier, has their own set of rules. But the general answer is, in my port, probably the smallest boats we go aboard are 300 gross ton yachts. And that never used to, a yacht, and you've seen yachts, these big luxury motor yachts, they're upwards of beyond 300, 500 ton. I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen a picture of that big, huge yacht called A. It's owned by this big Russian billionaire. I mean, that thing's bigger than some of the ships that we do. And so that's kind of where we're at right now. With some of these, quote, small yachts getting to be so big that we've had to, like other places, modify the rules. But typically the smallest type vessel we do in Hawaii are these 200-foot long Japanese, they're fishing type vessels, but they're mostly training ships that visit our islands twice a year. There's about, probably 12 or 15 of them that routinely return. But then we move big cruise ships, container ships, tankers that are upwards of, 800 or 900 feet. The biggest ship that we do is the Queen Victoria, I think that's 1,100 feet. So we do, and everything in between. So we're all over the board in terms of what we handle here. Old steam ships, modern new diesel ships, like I said, container ships, tankers, box ships, cargo ships, heavy lift ships, passenger ships, research ships, tugs and barges. We're kind of doing a lot of everybody.
But you have to have a sufficient volume of ship handling skills to be able to handle something and second guess or anticipate the handling skills of something from 300 tons up to 100,000 tons, because there's a massive ship handling difference between the two. That's why, you have to jump on board the ship, because it's not going to stop for you. You try to stop a ship and, it's going to take a mile or two for a ship to stop if they're going to be that nice, which they aren't, and you wouldn't expect. The other thing is you're in Hawaii, which is really cool because you get to wear such cool shirts. But after that, I never really thought of Hawaii as having some major ports, but of course Hawaii has to have some major ports because Hawaii's out in the middle of nowhere, and so you have to get everything imported. And so how many ports will you serve as a harbor pilot in the Hawaiian Islands, or are you licensed just for a specific number of ports?
Yeah, it's a great question too. Most people here don't even understand this. Most of the work that we do is at Honolulu Harbor. Obviously, it's like this hub and spoke thing where most all the cargo comes in to Honolulu, and then it gets transshipped on barges that go to the neighbor islands, to Maui, Kauai, and the Big Island primarily. I mean, they go to all the islands, but on the other primary islands, we're also licensed by the Coast Guard in the state and required to go work at a total of 7 different ports. Actually, it's really 6 now.
Okay.
And the other ports, typically every month, there's visiting cruise ships. We have a regular liquid propane tanker that visits the islands. We have a car ship that comes through the islands every other week. We have special project cargo that comes in on these big heavy lift ships that, they could be, a half a dozen of those, say, in a given year. But there's a wide variety of ships, although primarily most of them are these large luxury cruise ships, Princess and Holland America, Carnival, everybody else, that visits the island. And so we spend every week or every 2 weeks, I should say, there's a pilot that is on duty that is assigned to go do as many of the jobs at the neighbor islands that he can manage logistically if going between the islands. And if you can't manage all those jobs, then we'll send another guy out. But yeah, we're busy. We're one of the unique groups in the country that does a lot of literally traveling by either ship or plane to another port to go do the piloting job there. We might fly, say, from Honolulu over to the island of Hilo, or Big Island, and do a cruise ship arriving in Hilo the next day, and then ride it back to Honolulu, and then ride it over to Kauai the next day. And then after we take the ship out that night, we'll fly back to Honolulu. There's a lot of jobs like that. It's something a little different every day. The schedule's never quite the same, and there's a lot of variety and a lot of different ships and weather, and it's just so nothing. And as many times as I'll do the same ship over and over again over the years, it's never the same, and that's part of the job that I really like and enjoy.
Yeah, that has to be part of the thrill because it's not the exact same thing
Nope.
every day. That's what I enjoyed about being a cop. everything changed. Some things were going to be the same, but everything changed every day, every day, every day. So if you're licensed for one port in Hawaii, you're licensed for all 6. That's just how it works.
Correct. The state, another kind of unique thing about Hawaii, the way the pilotage laws are set here in Hawaii, you're required to work everywhere in Hawaii. So part of the process to apply to become a pilot here, just to throw in for your application for the test to take, it's a competitive job. You already have to have the federal pilotage at all the ports. So in other words, you have to have worked on a ship that has gone in and out, let's just say at the port over at Maui, at least 15 round trips. That means 30 times, in and out. A round trip is in and back.
Okay.
You had to have done that so many times at night, and then you had to have do that, take and document it, and then go down to the Coast Guard, turn your documents in to prove that you went in and out and all that. And then you got to take a test. And if you successfully pass that test, your Coast Guard license that says, you're a third mate or a second officer or a captain or whatever, you get an endorsement typed in on your license for that department. So you've got to do that at all 6 ports that we're working at. And again, that took me, and I was working hard. I was actually working on a ship at that time that was carrying sugar from Hawaii to the U.S. West Coast or the Gulf Coast. And so I was actually going in and out of some of these ports on a ship that I worked on a lot. It still took me over 8 years to get all those trips in time to sit for the test. So it's when you talk to somebody who is a quote harbor pilot, chances are that guy or girl has spent a lot of time and a lot of their personal expense to run around whenever they have the time to do it, to go get these observation rides, we call them, either working on a ship or working on a tug and barge or just riding with the state pilots that are there on their own time, on their own dime, and just getting all these trips in and then documenting it. And so, I mean, it's a commitment. I mean, it's a lifestyle, not just a job, and it's a career choice. And everybody who kind of watches us, looks at us that are in the industry, thinks, oh, cool, man, I want to be a harbor pilot. That's a great job. And you know what, it is. But to get there is pretty demanding because you have to go out when your friends or your girlfriend or your wife or your husband or whatever, when they're wanting you to stay home to do this event or party or family gathering, whatever, and you're like, but I got to go. I got to go watch this trip or whatever. It's hard to do. And a lot of people start doing it, and fewer continue doing it, and even fewer do it continuously all the way through.
Yeah, and
it's a challenging professional career. It really is.
They bail.
Just to get there.
In chat, Mary Brockman asks, okay, what is your favorite ship to pilot?
Oh, man. You know what? That's a great question.
or maybe we can even break it down this way. Do you prefer piloting big ships or smaller ships?
I might be kind of a weirdo, but I'll venture to guess that a lot of my peers feel the same way. The answer is, I think the more challenging the job is professionally, you kind of walk away from that job feeling like, wow, man, that was cool. I'm glad that went well. Or maybe it didn't. I mean, everything's fine, but you really felt like, I could have done a better job. But the most challenging jobs, I think, are the ones you remember the most. The favorite jobs that I do a lot of jobs kind of over and over and over again. And yet, to be honest, the answer to her question really is, it's not so much the ship. I mean, the ship by what it is and what they carry and all that. It's really about the crew, the captain and the crew that you get to work with.
Oh, okay. And, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, or the line.
Think about it.
Yeah, the line. Oh, that's another thing. I'm sure different lines have different reputations, and you probably, while you're grappling up the side of a ship, you're probably thinking to yourself, this is going to be like a World War II milk run. This will be fine. Things are going to go well because this line
Mark, we never We never say that.
Oh, okay. Because I'm thinking, okay, maybe this line has a great reputation, and I know these dudes up on the bridge, and these are squared away cats. Or
you're right.
There's
That's
probably
exactly like.
the second that you hear that I've got the USS Squalor, and I have to clamber up the side of that bastard, and I know that when I'm going to get in the bridge, number one, they're not going to talk to me, or they're just ignorant sons of bitches. I'm sure that you're thinking about stuff like that, too. Either I'm going to dig this because I've done it before and I know these people, or it's like serious trepidation. Like, oh, well, my God,
Mark,
not these guys again.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. And to be honest, like I said earlier, it's really less about the ship. I mean, it's kind of funny. There are ships out there that have reputations for being hard to handle. It doesn't matter who's on board. That you just know that ship's going to be tough to drive. Okay, that's fine. But if the captain and crew on there are pretty spot on guys, you know, it's a little less of a challenge. And you're right. It's more about you walk on board a ship. We have a lot of ships that we see back and forth routinely. They're American ships that come here all the time, and even some foreign ships. And one of the first things I wonder about is, I wonder who the captain's on here this time, or I wonder which captain is on here this time. And a lot of times, you know, once we climb on board, we're walking up to the bridge. It takes a few minutes, and we ask the person that's escorting us up, you know, to find the bridge, who the captain is. Oh, it's Captain so-and-so. Oh, it is? Oh, great, cool. That moment, I know right away, he's a great guy. He's an easy guy to work with. This is going to be an easy job in the sense of the job that I have to do. And then he'll say, oh, it's Captain this or that. And I'll go, okay.
Yeah.
and then I'll tell you that all I'll say is that job it's going to go fine, but I'll just have to work that a little bit better. And it really has to do, as you can imagine, it just kind of sets the tone on the bridge for the people that you have to work with. I already don't know who these guys are. There's, you know, for example, on a big cruise ship, there might be 5 or 7 people up there. On a typical cargo ship, there might be just 2 or 3 guys. But if whoever the captain is, he kind of sets the tone for the bridge and how things evolve. And, you know, the truth is, years ago, when I first started doing this, 24 years ago, actually, there were a lot of times on a lot of jobs where the job was a big pain in the butt. Not because the ship was bad, not because the weather was bad, but because the mindset of that captain, or maybe another officer on the bridge, or maybe those 2 guys,
sure,
not even me,
personnel,
maybe those 2 guys had a thing going on. Then it just was a really tough job to do, because remember, you're standing there and you're giving orders, directions, commands. You're asking them to do this. Please tell the guys to go do that. You know, and if all that is kind of collapsing around you, it's got nothing to do with the ship or my job, but it's a communication thing. And if these guys can't communicate with each other, which when you think about it, sometimes I get on a ship and there's a Greek captain and the other officers are South Korean, and the crew guys that are standing at the wheel or running around deck, maybe they're Filipinos or Indonesians. I mean, you have this multicultural, diverse group of people that don't even speak each other's language, and they're all trying to get along. And that's a real challenge, which is another reason why I'm there.
That's like crossing your fingers. That's like walking up there and saying, let's see, am I going to get Captain Wonderful or Captain Toadstool?
Yep.
And then, of course, you know, when you figure out when you do have Captain Toadstool. Okay, folks, we got to take a break. We'll be gone for about 5 minutes or so. When I come back, I discovered something amazing on my when I went for my wedding trip. We went to one of the places we went to was up in Astoria, Oregon. And I made an amazing discovery that there are not just harbor pilots, but there are different variations of harbor pilots as well. Yeah. So when we come back, we are listening to Captain Ed Enos. He's a harbor pilot in the Hawaiian Islands, licensed and certified for 6 ports on the Hawaiian Islands. When we come back, I'm going to ask him about various types of pilots. They have specifically to do with the Columbia River in Astoria, Oregon. So, folks, again, we're listening to Captain Ed Enos. Great to have you here, sir. We're going to take a break. You're listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. Don't go away, and we'll be right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz.
Hey girls, Carry Girl Gear is here. More and more women every day are concealed carrying, participating in competitive shooting, and getting firearms training. It's not a boys' club anymore, and we don't have to shop in their stores anymore either. Finally, a cool and unique clothing line just for women. Dope tees and hats for the patriotic concealed carry and 2A girl. So what are you waiting for? Go check out carrygirlgear.com today.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
The new show on the SHR Media Network, Sackheads Against Tyranny. On shrmedia.com. Go there quick like a bunny, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Wednesday. Live and direct on the SHR Media Network. shrmedia.com. Be there.
For 50 years, I've seen the American people blinded by corrupt politicians, a lapdog media, and deceptive Islam. The one thing the elites fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through Spreaker, iTunes, and SoundCloud, through SHR Media and the Western Free Radio Network, for half a century of experienced perspective on political and social issues, weekly on The Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capital, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad. Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are listening to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show, live and direct right here in the sumptuous and palatial SHR Media Studios, IRBZ. It's the second half hour. We're talking to Captain Ed Enos He is a harbor pilot in the Hawaiian Islands. We are blessed to have him here tonight, and we're talking all things maritime. Now, before we went to the break, I said that on my wedding sojourn, I went up to the Sierra Nevadas and went to the Ridge, and then I went to Timber Cove on the ocean in California. And then I drove up to Astoria, Oregon. Now, for those of you who don't know your geography, Astoria is a little teeny town, very on the coast, basically on the mouth of the Columbia River. And the Columbia River separates northern Oregon from southern Washington. And there's a big-ass bridge that goes over there. We stayed at the Holiday Inn Express and slept under the bridge. Though we weren't hobos, but we enjoyed watching. Okay, let me rephrase that. I enjoyed watching all the big-ass ships go by. But I also went to the Columbia River Museum that's there, the Maritime Museum. And in going there, I discovered all about bar pilots and harbor pilots and river pilots. And I thought, wow, okay, well, what's the big deal? Okay, a river pilot, okay, I can see that because rivers are going to change. Like the Mississippi, the sandbars, those are going to change. And a harbor pilot, okay, because you need to be familiar with whatever harbor you're going to be entering. And then I thought, a bar pilot, Columbia River bar pilot. What the hell is a bar pilot? Oh, they're the lucky dudes that get to be in charge of the alcohol. Okay, now I get it. Well, no, the Columbia River bar. The Columbia River is so huge, and the sand bar at the Columbia River changes so much. Hey, welcome, Dave, to chat, and to additional viewers. It changes so frequently that you need another pilot for something like that. So let me ask you this, Captain Ed Enos, who is a Hawaiian Islands bar pilot. Do you find that the various harbors in which you're certified and licensed, do they sometimes change too, their geography, their nature, tides, etc.? Do you find them to be a little changing and demanding day to day or maybe week to week?
Yeah, that's a great question too. And that's, as you would imagine, that's true everywhere. In Hawaii, in the 6 ports that we work at, the geography doesn't change that much. However, what makes the job challenging are the seasonal changes. And everybody knows, for example, here's a great example. Everybody knows Hawaii has great world-class surfing. So when you hear about or see the big waves at Waimea Bay or Sunset Beach or Makaha, and you can go online and look at these big, huge waves at Maui, whatever. These waves are literally 20 to 30 feet high, the face of the wave.
Oh,
and that happens every winter on the North Shore. Now, imagine the same harbors that are on the same coastlines just down the street from where those beaches are. So there's a couple of ports that we go to, that we work at year round, that during the winter, those are the jobs that we're really not excited to go to, because that means we have to go out there in that kind of weather. Now, obviously, those big waves aren't pounding, 30-foot waves aren't pounding the harbor, right. But the swells out there that are impacting the ship and our pilot boat ride out to the ship and coming back in, the ship is rolling from side to side and heaving up and down. And so all of a sudden that jump from the pilot boat onto the ladder, it's quite literally the leap for life, because if you miss it, that might be your last job. So the weather changes things. The ocean and sea conditions definitely changes things. There are significant seasonal changes. And then there are, day-to-day changes with just, the passing weather that's affecting the harbor that day or whatever. But yeah, that's a big deal everywhere, especially here.
Yeah, nothing like being crushed in between a 100,000. Oops, it's just a little oopsie. Hey, I don't have to worry about anything. It's not like I fell off in the Bering Sea, okay? I'm in the Hawaiian Islands. It's going to be nice and warm. And oops, I just got crushed between a 100,000-ton ship and the boat that I'm launching myself out into space over. No problem.
Yeah. Well, you're talking about the Columbia River Bar, and just to give everybody out there, your listeners and even you,
it's hell.
An idea of what.
Oh my
you can go,
God!
Just Google the Columbia River Bar Pilots, and their website has a bunch of great pictures, and you can see, it can be challenging. Just the weather, and you got to remember this too. A lot of times, even on my own Instagram account, it's really easy to post pictures during the day, but you got to remember. This happens at nighttime too, and really foul weather as well as the night days. And so it's hard to capture good pictures and video of bad weather or rough water rides or going on board at in the evening or inclement weather. So we're like firemen. When somebody calls, we have to go, and we can't pick and choose the time. We can't pick and choose the weather. We can't pick and choose whether it's a good day or a bad day out there in the water. They expect us to be there, and we have to show up when they show up and be there and bring them in or take them out safely. And again, that's true everywhere all over the world.
Okay, that brings another question that I hadn't written in my list of questions here is, what are your hours and your times? Do you work 24 on, 24 off? Do you work by appointment? How do you work in that lifestyle?
Well, it's a little different everywhere, but in general, most pilot groups, especially here in America, typically work, say, for a week on and a week off. In our case, we work for 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. There are 8 pilots in my group, and so 4 guys are working on duty all the time, and 4 guys are off duty. The 4 guys that are on duty are on call 24 hours a day. They must be available to go work 24 hours a day. Obviously, they have to get rest. So the system that we have set up, which again is very typical, is if there's 4 guys on duty, I do every 4th job. If one of the pilots has to leave and he goes to another island, he flies to another island, then there's only 3 guys left in Honolulu, then I will do every 3rd job. And successively gets down to the last guy who remains in Hawaii. If our busy cruise ship season and there's 3 guys gone up to 3 different islands and 1 guy's by himself, we'll call a guy in from off duty to make sure that the guy that's working by himself gets enough rest. Getting enough rest between jobs, again, that's true everywhere. It's a law. You have to get your rest, and then you get back to work. But for us, 2 weeks is a real good time frame. By the time 2 weeks is over, you're ready to go home and get some sleep and get some rest. And 2 weeks working is, you're busy enough. We do roughly, I think, about 2,700, 2,800 jobs in a year. If you break that out, on an average or whatever, our group is small. Our ports are small, but we're pretty busy doing things around the clock.
Yes, yeah. I bet you're really consistent, that as opposed to many other places, your work is fairly consistent and I would guess pretty much predictable for the most part. Would that be correct?
Yeah. It's a good, yeah. We, and it's hard to understand this, but most ship owners schedule their ships out, days, if not weeks in advance. Mm-hmm. So I know next week on Thursday, I'm probably going to be busy in the mornings or in the evenings. Within 48 hours, our schedule really starts getting dialed in. Within 24 hours, I can tell you exactly where I'm going to be working. Although there are a lot of times where in the middle of the night, I get a phone call saying, "Oh, that job you had at 4 a.m.? Yeah, they canceled that. It's going to go at 9 o'clock in the morning now. So go back to bed, and you can wake up later now." So there's a lot of changing, but we pretty much know when we're going to work and when we're going to get rest. So it's a good balance.
Dave Milner in chat says, hey, ask Captain Ed if they use sonar to scan the bars these days. Are there any bars that you would typically encounter in the Hawaiian Islands? And to your knowledge, if there are bars, how do they check those to make sure that they're changing, the nature of their change, et cetera, that kind of thing?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the answer is, for me, no. The only time we're concerned about a sudden change in things is either after a significant, horrible storm where maybe some sandbars might be moving around. But to be honest, that's pretty rare. One thing that we do purposely do is if there is a large tsunami or earthquake, which we've had, a couple years,
Right.
where we know the bottom can change, we'll send the pilot boat out, and we'll go on the boat ourselves, and we'll look firsthand because we know how deep things are supposed to be, or put it this way, the old Mark Twain quote, I know where it's deep and where it's shallow, so we'll check that. But going back to the Columbia River Bar, that's a good example of that does move around.
Yeah.
Those guys do have to check that out.
Yep.
And as far as using sonar, the truth is, I guess you could still call it that, but most research ships that do this kind of what they call bathymetric surveying, they have this new 3D imaging, and they can run one boat, say, across, the bar, and it'll have this cone-shaped swath, and they can see a three-dimensional image of the bottom and all the contours and all that, like right now in real time. And those guys that have piloted ground like that, I think they have that done pretty regularly or seasonally, depending on the conditions there, but not here in Hawaii.
There's another person in chat, Traveling Cynic, who says that my cousin does this in the New York Harbor area. He's got 2 weeks on and 2 weeks off. On his 2 weeks off, he works at an oyster bar in Virginia Beach.
And I guess he's a real bar pilot, huh?
Yeah, exactly. And he says, New York Harbor is nasty.
Yeah. Lots of traffic, lots of fog, lots of weather, lots of ship traffic. Then you got the ferries and the private. The truth is, you were alluding to this earlier. There's a lot of different kind of pilotage all over the country, all over the world for that matter. And you mentioned the Columbia River. The bar pilots are one group. They go out into the ocean and they bring these ships over the bar, which is extremely rough, even on a nice day. And they get it to a point where they're in the flat water of the river area off Astoria. Those guys get off. And then a river pilot gets on.
Right, exactly.
And they continue taking that ship all the way up to Portland, or whatever, 60 miles upriver.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's a completely different kind of pilotage. But they've learned years ago that one guy doing one thing really doesn't want to go do all the other. If you can imagine, coming down the river, dead flat calm, but navigating the fog and all that, the bends and winding river and all that. Then you get to the bar, and now you're just like hanging on for dear life. The guy's got to be dialed in mentally on what the hell he's doing. And those are two completely different kinds of pilotage that you can't really expect them to be doing at once. So one group does one thing, and the other group does the other thing, and everybody's pretty happy with that arrangement. Guys up in Alaska, for example, another really different kind of job. They'll put two pilots on board one ship, and they ride these cruise ships from one port to the other. While everybody is ashore during the day, these guys sleep, and then they're up all night long. When they leave the dock at 6 or 8 o'clock at night, and they arrive the next morning at 7 or 6 in the morning, these two guys have taken turns being up all night long, constantly driving the ship through all the little nooks and crannies of southeast and southwest Alaska. And the ship's officers are right there. Everybody's working as together, but it's the pilots that take turns, 4 hours on, 4 hours off. They're driving. So they're docking a ship maybe once, in a day, or undocking in an evening. And then our group in Hawaii, we're kind of more like what some people call docking pilots, which is where we get on board the ship, and within just a few minutes of getting up to the bridge to talk to the captain, I'm already on the radio talking to tugboats. My runs are short, an hour or two at the most, but a lot of that is, talking to tugboats, push me full, pull me, back half or whatever. We're maneuvering the ship around in very narrow basins and down narrow channels, working against the wind and all that. It's real hands-on ship handling and maneuvering. We don't do long passages for several hours like in San Francisco or up in, Charleston upriver or whatever, or Puget Sound even. Every place is really different. It's really unique. I wouldn't dream of doing my job in Puget Sound or up in Alaska or San Francisco. And likewise, those guys would never come to Hawaii and go, yeah, I can do that job too. It's different everywhere. We might know how to handle a ship, but handling that ship in your harbor, that's your gig, man, not mine. And I don't pretend I could do it there either. So it's a really unique job everywhere.
Well, and it's very specific. It's geologically different. The geography changes, the nature of the geography. I mean, it takes hey, Whiskey Dale, welcome to chat, and 3 viewers now, 3 more. Also, I did not realize. Now, I've been on the Inside Passage cruise up towards Alaska, and I did not realize that there were pilots on a cruise ship that long. I thought you would only be a pilot in terms of, you go into Anchorage, etc. I did not realize that pilots were on board a cruise ship for so long.
Yeah. So the minute they leave the dock in either, say, Victoria or Vancouver, there's what they call a British Coast pilot. And that's another huge, there's 160 of those guys. And they work for the Canadian government. So they're on board all these cruise ships up until they get so far north they're in Alaska waters. And then the American Southeast Alaska pilots come on board, those two guys with their bags. They talk to the British Columbia pilots, and they transfer who's taking, control now. And then the British Columbia guys get off, and then they go home or onto another ship. And so now the SEPA pilots, the Southeast Alaska guys, they continue on the trip all the way as far north as wherever that ship goes. Every time there's a cruise ship, at least here on the West Coast, through Alaskan waters and Canadian waters, there generally is a Canadian or American pilot on board, as long as they're within the waters that are pretty near the coastline or inside all those islands of the Inside Pass. That's been the way to do it since way back.
So there's a captain on a massive old cruise ship, but the captain is not necessarily captaining. The captain is deferring his captaincy to the various pilots that are on board the cruise ship, if you're talking, like you say, Canada on up into Alaska. Now, that's very interesting. I had no idea about that either. We got about 7 more minutes before the end of the top of the hour. I want to ask you about the Maritime Academy. I remember looking at, MaritimeHawaii.com. You indicated that you went to the Maritime Academy for 4 years. Is that correct? An academy is 4 years of your life?
Yes. There are 6 maritime academies around the country. There's one federal academy, Kings Point. The state maritime academies, California, Massachusetts, Maine, Great Lakes, Texas. You go there for a 4-year education. You get a college degree.
Wow.
And you come out, you're college educated. And there's basically 2 paths. There's a lot of minor details, but you're either a deck officer, you're up there on the bridge working cargo and navigating, or you're down in the engine room, which is a whole different career thing. But so there's officers on board, down below or up on deck. You come out of that school with your degree and a license from the Coast Guard after taking a big exam. It's 3 days long. That allows you to literally walk out of school, go down to the dock, go up the gangway with your bag, walk on board that ship, and within the hour, now you're outbound on board this tanker as a brand new 3rd mate or 3rd engineer, and you're in charge. And that's what those schools teach you how to do. They want somebody with not only the book smarts, but they've taught you how to go down below and turn this valve, and that happens, and pump this thing, or whatever it is. That's why you go to Maritime Academy. It's a specific type of education. And so I went to California Maritime Academy. That's where many of the guys that are working on ships on the West Coast went, although not all of them. You do not have to go there and go to sea. There are just as many people that are probably choosing shoreside, maritime-related industry-type jobs. The engineers, for example, those guys are being recruited by power and electric companies or hospitals or big, huge shopping malls or buildings that, think of all the sewage, the lights, the electrical, the hydraulic system.
Oh, yeah. It's a city.
It's a city. And that's what an engineer does on a ship. It's running a city. So those guys can go work really anywhere. And deck officers are a little bit more specialized, but still you can work ashore if you want or on a ship.
So you have to, and correct me if I'm wrong, in your 4 years there, from which you get an actual college degree, you, I'm guessing, are going to be schooled in mechanical, electronic, and ship handling, and probably a lot more?
Yeah, it's a lot of navigational, safety, firefighting, that type of stuff. It's cargo, stability, navigation. It's logistics, the transportation industry. A lot of rules, regulations, all the international type stuff. It's hard to imagine all the junk that they can teach you in 4 years, but believe me, there's plenty of it. So much so that after you leave the school and you're out there in the industry, a big part of our time is continuing education.
Oh,
where
okay.
We have to go back
Right.
to school.
Right. Okay.
Which I just did in the past week, as a matter of fact.
I get that. In chat, Dave Milner was talking about the 3-day exam. He says, well, that's an exam for your ass. And he also said, I bet the engineers are making bank on their job. So is that true? Yeah, you're going to have to go through essentially 4 years, but you have the potential with that amount of knowledge to make a fairly good chunk of change?
Yeah, I tell everybody this is a high-paying industry. There's a lot of benefits and compensation. This is a great career choice. However, I'll tell you two things. One, you earn that money in a lot of different. It's hard work.
Yeah.
And two, it's a zero-tolerance industry. I tell kids this all the time. You're either choosing drugs or you're choosing this career. And there's a lot of kids I talk to. They turn around and walk away. It's a really sad reality, but it is. You cannot do drugs either medicinally or recreationally. And everybody in this industry knows that. There's random testing, there's pre-employment testing. It's a big deal. But yeah, it's a very well paying industry, a lot of great benefits, travel and all that. But believe me, you earn it.
My guess would be 2 words are responsible for that that mindset in your industry. And from that point on, it became the new mindset. My guess would be Exxon Valdez.
Yep, that was a big part of it. That changed the industry, and I will tell you that I worked in the industry before that, and I've seen some horror stories. And as a matter of fact, my wife, who graduated from California Maritime Academy with me, was working on the sister ship to that ship. And believe me, I know all the backstory details, but that did change the rules. The rules officially are OPA 90, Oil Pollution Act of 1990, and that dramatically changes the industry forever.
Okay, let me do this. I always do this. Like I said, I have 11 pages of questions. Like I told you, I got to 3 of them. I have so many other questions. So the first immediate question to you, Captain Ed Enos, is would you be willing to come back in the saloon and chat a little bit more about the maritime situation around here in the United States? Because good God, mister, I didn't get to a percentage of this stuff.
I know you would, Mark. Yeah, so no, I'd be happy to come back. We can do this another night, anytime. I'm pretty flexible. I enjoyed this too, and I would love to add more to your listeners out there who want to info and advice on the career thing, whether they're young or old or even midlife. So I'd be happy to come back.
Great. Thank you for that. You're a big hit in the chat room, I should tell you. So Captain Ed Enos, I want to thank you ever so kindly for being here tonight. In an unusual move for me, I don't have to thank you for staying up late because it's 9 p.m. here in California and it's only 7 p.m. in Hawaii. So that said, Captain Ed, I want to thank you for being here in the saloon tonight, for telling us sea stories, giving us some insight in the U.S. maritime industry. And, I almost forgot. This is important. Can you give us places where you can be found and or like maybe places where people can take a peek at what's happening in your life on social media?
Absolutely. The best place is Instagram. Just Hi Captain Ed, HICAPTED. Hi Captain Ed, real simple. I post pics and videos of my life working on ships there, every day, if not several times a day. I'm on Facebook, but most of the stuff on Facebook comes from Instagram. I'm also on Twitter, but there's a whole lot more political stuff there. But I guess your listeners are totally into it, so they'll love my Twitter feed too.
Yeah,
Hi,
cool.
Captain Ed, same thing.
Cool, great. All right, it has been a pleasure and an honor having you on the show tonight. I'm glad that you said that you would come back. Folks, you've been listening to Captain Ed Enos. He is a Hawaii harbor pilot. And thank you kindly, sir. God bless and be safe, sir.
Aloha, Mark. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mele Kalikimaka.
Yes, sir.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz.
Hey girls, Carry Girl Gear is here. More and more women every day are concealed carrying, participating in competitive shooting, and getting firearms training. It's not a boys' club anymore, and we don't have to shop in their stores anymore either. Finally, a cool and unique clothing line just for women. Dope tees and hats for the patriotic, concealed carry, and 2A girl. So what are you waiting for? Go check out carrygirlgear.com today.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
The new show on the SHR Media Network, Sackheads Against Tyranny. On shrmedia.com. Go there quick like a bunny, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific, every Wednesday. Live and direct on the SHR Media Network. shrmedia.com. Be there.
For 50 years, I've seen the American people blinded by corrupt politicians, a lapdog media, and deceptive Islam. The one thing the elites fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through Spreaker, iTunes, and SoundCloud, through SHR Media and the Western Free Radio Network, for half a century of experienced perspective on political and social issues, weekly on The Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capitol, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad. Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
What a great guest. I had a great time with him, and I told him, and I'm sure he's saying this right now, is that I said, dude, Captain Ed, what's going to happen is you're going to get through. You'll hang up the phone. He said his wife was waiting for him with a glass of wine when he finished. So he only had an hour. And we both agreed, yeah, he's going to come back right after the holidays are over. And that makes a lot of sense because, you want to be available for Christmas and New Year's and all of that kind of stuff. You take a chance on guests, especially when you've never spoken to them before. But if you go to his Instagram page, or if you go to, I picked up most of his stuff from Twitter. some of it from Facebook, but mostly from Twitter. He's got a really good, pretty active Twitter feed as well. But I mean, I could tell he writes well, but sometimes people don't translate well from someone that, well, like professors, for example. How many times have you been to a college class or some kind of a school where you're going to sit down and the person that you're taking the class from has just a great CV. They're world-renowned. They're a wonderful SME or a subject matter expert. And then you sit down in front of them and they have the world's most terrible, thin, reedy voice, or they sound like Fran Drescher. And you think to yourself, if I have to listen to another hour of this, I'm going to knock my head through the sheetrock. So, you know, when you have somebody that's as great as this, as competent as this, and can translate all that information on radio, man, you got a great guest. And Captain Ed Enos was a great guest. There's no doubt. Okay, in the second hour, as we customarily do, we're going to do a little bit of politics, as you may expect. Waiting for Kurt Schlichter to arrange for coming back because he's got his new book out, Wildfire, which I ordered, received, and I'm in the process of reading right now. That's his third fiction book in the series of Kelly Turnbull, where essentially in his land, in his world, the United States of America has split into essentially the United States and the rest of the country, and of course California involves the rest of the country. They all went blue. And so he writes about this dystopian future and how when leftists have it amongst themselves to be able to finally plot their own future, they're as competent as a houseplant or as Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. So Kurt he's going to be coming back. I'd like to talk to him about his new book. And I also read articles from him. Here's his newest. It says, how much blood would leftists be willing to shed to disarm patriotic Americans? This is from townhall.com just 2 days ago. My question for Congress jerk Eric Swalwell is pretty simple. How many Americans would you murder to achieve your goal of disarming us? Well, that's a fair question. Swalwell is the MSNBC stalwart who recently wrote an op-ed advocating that the government confiscate the guns that make people like him wet themselves and imprison those of us who decline to surrender them. Millions of Americans own these basic tools of freedom, which the ignorant call assault weapons. And these loyal citizens keep and bear them to protect themselves, their families, their communities, and their Constitution. But Representative Swalwell would make these citizens felons, though these patriots are only a threat to criminals and aspiring tyrants. Of course, he wants to make these patriots felons because they are a threat to criminals and aspiring tyrants. After all, that's what leftist Democrats like him really are. Now, we know that some Americans would resist this kind of tyranny. People all over the world are resisting the elite's commands. The Brits Brexited. The French are rioting because they don't want to sacrifice their livelihoods on behalf of the global elite's weird weather religion. And a decree that the Second Amendment is not a thing anymore would certainly provoke some serious pushback here. That's why it's fair to ask Representative Bloodlust how much blood he's prepared to shed to achieve his goal of disarming normal Americans. So, Representative Swalwell, some people are going to fight rather than cave in. So, what's the specific number of bodies that you're willing to pile up to win? Let's put aside the right or the wrong of resistance. It'll be a thing. It'll happen. You're from near San Francisco, so you don't know any real Americans. But even though I am from that hellhole too, I've met a few Americans in my travels. They're an ornery people who don't give in to the kind of bullying that you advocate. So you're going to have to kill some people to do what you want. And I just want to know, how many you're prepared to off to achieve your goal. After all, it's not as if you Democrats don't already have a history of killing people for having guns you disapprove of. Remember Waco. The raid on David Koresh's compound was because his weird band of misfits allegedly had scary outlawed guns. That's why Democrat Janet Reno initially decided to send in the troops. The government got 4 of our ATF agents killed and slaughtered the resistors, including women and kids. Stop right there for a second. I happen to know about Waco, and everybody knows that I was a law enforcement officer for 41 years, and I'm still a sheepdog. And I knew people in ATF, and I worked for the FBI. I worked for the feds, for the U.S. Marshal, not the ATF, but I knew people there. And basically the people that were not directly involved in that said that the ATF fucked up by the numbers, because all they could have done. And when I first heard about this, my first thought is, look, why don't you wait until David Koresh comes out of his compound, gets in a car, drives away, goes down the road, turns left, heads towards town to get groceries, and oh yeah, you pull a vehicle stop on him and you nab him there. And the answer was they knew they could have done that, but they wanted to make a point. And so by attempting to make a point, they got 4 ATF agents killed. That pissed me off for so long, it wasn't even funny. Let's get back to Kurt. Was it worth it? Maybe these creepy cultists were violating the law, but was making sure they didn't have guns that were scary, worth shooting or burning alive about 80 people, including 4 cops. Was it? So in light of his party's track record, Kurt Schlichter, I want to know how many people Representative Swalwell, who fancies himself a potent Democrat presidential contender, how many people are you prepared to see die so that you can ensure Americans are disarmed in order to please the liberal Californians he represents? How many? Give me a number. 1, 100, 1,000, 100,000. More? How many corpses would Eric Swalwell and his blue state buddies accept because they don't think some law-abiding citizen in Oklahoma should be allowed to choose what kind of weapon he has because they think they should choose for him? And, of course, that choice would be none. On Twitter, which is a wonderful thing because it makes people truly reveal themselves, one gentleman pointed out the not-so-far-fetched notion that mass gun confiscation... Let's leave the problematic logistics for the gun-hating fascists aside, that it would spark a civil war. But Representative Swalwell was not worried. He observed that a bunch of citizens with rifles could not stand up to a military armed with nuclear weapons. And I saw that tweet, and that's what went out there. Well, that's a troubling notion. Now, Congressman Strangelove properly took a lot of grief for suggesting nuking fellow Americans. But even if you accept his backtracking about how this was a joke, because, nothing's funnier than suggesting the mass murder of fellow Americans, he only put nukes off limits. What killing systems are still on the table? Eric? Infantry? Artillery? Bombers? Because his answer assumed that he would support prosecuting a war against those who fail to obey and submit to arrest. So, Congressman, what means of destructions are still on the table to use against fellow Americans who refuse to allow you to strip them of their Second Amendment rights because you Bay Area liberals want to show those hicks in Jesus land who's boss? Dave Miller in chat says, hey, bioweapons? Is shooting them okay? Shelling them? Bombing them? Just not with nukes, okay? Having seen the fruits of oppression overseas, Colonel Kurt Schlichter writes, I find this troubling. Actually, that's putting it lightly. I find it horrifying. I've written about it in my novels about how our country could be ripped apart by leftist oppression. And then he also throws this in, of course. My just-released book, Wildfire, paints a mostly unpretty picture. But unfortunately, my predictions seem to keep coming true. Try as I might, nothing I write speculating about what they would do if given the chance seems to hold a candle to what people like Congressman Stalin tell us they're actually willing to do to crush us under their Gucci loafers. Understand that the leftists with Swalwell's mentality are not driven by notions of justice or reason, but by cold hatred for normal Americans. We've been disobedient. We've been defiant. We've refused to surrender our means of defending our own sovereignty to our elite overlords, and that is intolerable. After all, a man without a rifle is not a citizen. He's a serf. She is a serf, subject to the whims and will of his overlords, who you damn well know are never giving up the guns their minions keep and bear. Look at England. They gave up their guns. Now the police watch their Twitter feeds and arrest them if they say unapproved things. Listen to this. This is absolutely correct, what Kurt Schlichter writes next. That's not a bug to our liberal elite. That's a feature. That's the goal. Wait, this is crazy talk. If we disarm and only a government controlled by the liberal elite has guns, our overlords will be totally cool. They will respect our right to say and do what we want. They'll allow us to practice our religion as we please. You know, just like the liberals respect the rights of normal people where they are in control, like on college campuses or on social media or in the municipalities that hassle Christian cake shops. Get woke, Kurt Schlichter writes. They hate you. And your freedom to tell them to pound sand sticks in their collectivist craw. Ignore the leftist media and the Fredocon collaborators who demand you not believe your lying eyes or ears when they tell you what they intend to do to you if given the chance. So the question remains, our liberal elite betters think we should be stripped of those scary bang sticks the Constitution protects, and we disagree. So, Representative Swalwell, how many Americans are you willing to kill to fulfill your vision of a disarmed, defenseless, servile population of docile subjects? 1? 100? 1,000? 100,000? More?
It's time for happy stories and good times.
It is time for happy stories and good times. Hey, remember the kerfuffle about Barack Obama and some terrible racists were saying that if you say he's from Kenya or if you disbelieve his birth certificate, you must be a racist. Everybody remember that? Well, BZ, guess what? I went digging through some archives, and that's another reason you gotta hate or love the internet. And that's another reason that a lot of people don't like the internet, because I found this series of clips. And it's like I have clips of Obama and Michelle admitting repeatedly that he was born in Kenya. Oh, wait. Here's the bad. This is why it's a happy story, because what I'm about to play to you, if you remember, back in 2008, it was Hillary Rodham Clinton versus Barack Hussein Obama. Oh, that's right. It was Hillary Clinton who started that about Barack Obama, not Trump.
I'm proud to be the first U.S. president to visit Kenya. And obviously this is personal for me. There's a reason why my name's Barack Hussein Obama. obviously, there are emotions to a visit like this. Memories come rushing back. 3 years ago, I visited Kenya as the first sitting American president to come from Kenya. And of course, I'm the first Kenyan American to be president of the United States.
Yeah, I was not born in Hawaii. I wasn't born in the United States of America. I come from Kenya.
And visited his home country in Kenya.
Well, what do you believe, folks? Like they said, your lion eyes or your lion ears? It's the internet, Barack. I remember where this shit sits, okay? And if I can dig it up, well, I bet other people can too. So, I don't know. This is not me saying one thing or other. I'm just playing his words. I'm just playing her words. Here's another great story. This is from Fox News. Stormy Daniels. This is great. You're going to love the hell out of this. Stormy Daniels ordered to pay President Trump $292,000 in legal fees. Adult film star Stormy Daniels must pay President Trump $293,000 in legal fees, a judge ruled today. The U.S. District Court today ordered Stormy Daniels, real name Stephanie Clifford, to pay President Trump $292,052.33 to reimburse his attorney's fees, 75% of his total legal bill, plus an additional $1,000 in sanctions to punish, Stephanie Clifford for having filed a meritless lawsuit against the president designed to chill his free speech rights. Charles J. Harder, the president's legal counsel, said in a statement. The court's order, Harder said, came along with the court's prior order dismissing Stormy Daniels' defamation case against the president. Together constitute a total victory for the president and a total defeat for Stormy Daniels in this case. $292K. I don't know. Is that Schadenfreude? Yeah, that's Schadenfreude. And this is me being happy, which is why these are happy stories. Now, here's something that occurred today. President Trump sat down with Nancy Pelosi and little Chucky Schumer, and Mike Pence, Vice President Mike Pence was in there. And as far as I'm concerned, these folks showed base naked fear. Let me see if I can find the video on that. Okay, here we go. Let me do the setup on this. They're in the Oval Office, and they want to have a discussion, apparently, and there's the media, the American media maggots are all around them in the Oval Office. And Trump says, basically, the wall is going to be built one way or the other. And these days, I don't know, I kind of tend to believe him, but then he points his finger at these two and says, essentially, you want transparency? I've always said I'll take transparency. So you want to talk about the wall? You want to talk about immigration? Sure. Let's do it right here, right now, in front of all of the media types right here. Let's have that discussion. And this happens instead.
The opportunity to meet with you so that we can work together in a bipartisan way to meet the needs of the American people. I think the American people recognize that we must keep government open, that a shutdown is not worth anything, and that you should not have it.
Well, you also should know that Trump has been making noise to the effect that if he doesn't get the money for the wall, then he's thinking about shutting down government, exactly what Barack Hussein Obama already did when he didn't get his way.
Trump shutdown.
So okay for Obama, not okay for Trump. You get that right.
You have the White House. Trump shut down. You have the White House. You have the Senate. You have the House of Representatives. You have the votes. You should pass it.
No, we
right
don't have
now.
the votes, Nancy, because in the Senate we need 60 votes.
No, but in the House.
And we don't
you
have
could bring it up right now.
Yeah, but
today.
I can't, excuse me, but I can't get it passed in the House if it's not going to pass in the Senate. I don't want to waste time.
Well, the fact is, you can get it started that way.
The House we can get passed very easily,
Okay,
and we
then
do.
do it. Then
But
do
the
it.
problem is the Senate, because we need 10 Democrats to vote, and
That's
they
not
won't
the
vote.
point, Mr. President. The point is that there are equities to be waived.
That's not the point. She says that's not the point.
And we're here to have a conversation in a prayerful way, so I don't think we should have a debate in front of the press on this. But the fact is...
Listen to this. Listen to this. This is great.
...is the House Republicans could bring up this bill, if they had the votes, immediately and set the tone for what you want.
If we thought we were going to get it passed in the Senate, Nancy, we would do it immediately. We'd get it passed very easily in the House. We would get it, Nancy, I'd have it passed in 2 seconds. It doesn't matter, though, because we can't get it passed in the Senate because we need 10 Democrat votes.
Well,
That's the problem.
again, let us have our conversation, then we can meet with the press again. But the fact is that...
In other words, I don't want to tell you what I've got hanging over your head. And when I start using threats, I don't want the press to hear or see me doing that along with little Chucky Schumer, right?
Legislating, which is what we do. Right. You begin, you make your point, you state your case. That's what the House Republicans could do if they had the votes. But there are no votes in the House, a majority of votes, for a wall. No matter where you start.
Exactly right. You don't have if I needed the votes for the wall in the House, I would have them in one session.
Well,
would be done.
Go do it.
It doesn't help because we need 10 Democrats in the
Don't
Senate.
put it on the Senate. Put it on the negotiation.
Okay, let me ask you this.
She wants to argue about how government works.
And we're doing this in a very friendly manner. It doesn't help for me to take a vote in the House where I will win easily with the Republicans. It doesn't help to take that vote because I'm not going to get the vote of the Senate. I need 10 senators. That's the problem.
Mr. President, you have the White House, you have the Senate.
I have the White House. The White House is done, and the House...
What's her point? Her point is she's really damn stupid.
Would give me the vote if I wanted it, but I can't because I need, Nancy, I need 10 votes from Chuck.
All right, let me say something here.
Let me just say one thing. The fact is, we do not have the votes in the House.
Nancy, I do. And we need border security. Nancy, we need border security. It's very simple.
Of course we do.
We need border security. People are pouring into our country, including terrorists.
See, now here's the deal. And who was it? Whiskey Dale in chat said, yeah, the art of the deal, and he's pulled them into his web. So he's got her to say publicly in the press right here that, yeah, of course we need border security. That's not what she believes, but she has to say it right there because it's in front of the press.
Terrorists. We caught 10 terrorists over the last very short period of time. 10. These are very serious people. Our border agents, all of our law enforcement has been incredible what they've done. But we caught 10 terrorists. These are people that were looking to do harm.
Okay, let me stop right here. If you're watching the video, Nancy Pelosi is on the left, and she just did what we called the butt wipe, which is what you would see if you were in a room interrogating a suspect. And a butt wipe means either I'm already very nervous or the next thing that I tell you is about to be a lie.
We need the wall. We need, more important than anything, we need border security, of which the wall is just a piece. But it's important. Chuck, did you want to say something?
Yeah, here's what I want to say. We have a lot of disagreements here. The Washington Post today gave you a whole lot of Pinocchios because they say you constantly misstate how much the wall is built, how much of the wall is built, and how much is there. But that's not the point here. We have a disagreement about the wall, whether it's effective or whatever. Not on border security, but on the wall. We do not want to shut down the government. You have called 20 times to shut down the government. You say, I want to shut down the government.
Okay, again, see my previous statement, little Chucky Schumer. Okay for Baraki, the anointed one. Not okay for Trump, the guy with the dead orange cat on his head.
We don't. We want to come to an agreement. If we can't come to an agreement, we have solutions.
By the way, let me throw this in, because it just entered my wheelhouse. See what I said there? See what I'm doing there? When you shut down the government, essentially you're shutting down 17% of the government. And that's what Barack Hussein Obama did when he shut down the government. But then do you remember that Barack Hussein Obama wanted to make it hurt so that it wasn't convenient for the people that weren't directly affected? Does the military stop at all? No, it doesn't. Medicare, Social Security, that doesn't stop either. And when people tell you that, they're lying to you. So please keep that percentile in mind when you're talking about everything is going to stop and the car will crash and all the wheels will fall off and the engine will fall out. It'll be so terrible.
That will pass the House and Senate right now and will not shut down the government, and that's what we're urging you to do. Not threaten to shut down the government, because let me just finish, because you can't get your way.
The last time you shut it down, you got killed.
Let me say something.
That's the exact same thing that happened with Barack Obama. He took his toys and went home and shut down the government. Blow me, Chucky.
Mr. President, you just say my way or we'll shut down the government. We have a proposal that Democrats and Republicans will support to do a CR that will not shut down the government. We urge you to...
Okay. You know that a CR is a continuing resolution. Folks, when was the last time we had an actual, honest-to-God budget for the United States of America in a fiscal year? Oh, yeah, that's at least 11 years ago. And at this point, if you're not saying, what the hell? You ought to be saying, what the hell? Because that's the last time that the United States was able to get together collectively, both houses and the Oval Office, to sign a damn budget.
Take it.
And if it's not good border security, I won't take it.
It is very good border security.
And if it's not good border security, I won't take it.
It's what the...
Because when you look at these numbers of the effectiveness of our border security...
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I have to be honest. I'm not affected. I don't give a crap if the federal government shuts down. I don't give one dribbling little crap. Shut it down. Don't care.
Security. And when you look at the job that we're doing
you
with our
just
military,
said it is effective.
Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
Oh, damn it. I just missed my bottom of the hour break. Okay. Well, when this is done, we'll take a break. Let's continue.
You just said
without
it's effective.
A wall, these are only areas where you have the walls.
We want to do
where
this.
You have walls, Chuck, it's effective. Where you don't have walls, it is not effective.
Yeah.
Let's call a halt to this. We've come in here as the first...
Let's call a halt to this. Do you know why she's calling a halt to this? Because he's winning the argument. This is an actual argument. This is where you have a tete-a-tete with the president, who's being assaulted on both sides, literally both sides, by Nancy Pelosi on the left and little Chucky Schumer on the right. And so there are two people talking at Trump, and yet he appears to be winning his argument. Because he's winning his argument, now Nancy Pelosi pipes up and says...
First branch of government, Article 1, the legislative branch. We're coming in good faith to negotiate with you about how we can keep the government
open.
We're going to keep it open if we have border security. If we don't have border security, Chuck, we're not going to keep it open.
I'm with you. I'm with you. No, you're not. That's just a lie. You're not with him.
And it's the same border. You're bragging about what has been done.
By us.
We want to do the same thing we did last year, this year. That's our proposal. If it's good, then...
Okay, stop. This is unprecedented. How many times in the prior history of the United States can you recall that the press have covered basically, I wouldn't necessarily call this heated, I'd call it certainly active, an active debate or discussion back and forth between three people, the highest level three people in the government of the United States of America. This is pretty much unprecedented.
It's good now, and it won't shut down the government.
Chuck, we can build a much bigger section with
debate,
more money.
Let's debate in private.
Listen to Nancy.
Okay? Yeah, let's debate in private.
That is devoid, frankly, of fact, and we can...
We need border security. I think we all agree that we need border security.
Yes,
is that
we
right?
do.
Good.
We do.
See?
Okay. Where's the transparency that everybody wanted? Barack wanted transparency. She said she wanted transparency before. Little Chucky Schumer said he wanted transparency before. Where's that transparency? She says, no. Let's stop this right now. Let's go into another room and have our debate where I can start to threaten you with crap. And Chuck can threaten you with crap and tell you how we're going to turn your life upside down. And when we take the House in January, here's all the steps that we're going to take to turn your life upside down. So if you think you have anything over on us, you've got another thing coming. And she can't say that here, and she doesn't want to. This is transparency. Nope, can't have it, because that's not how Democrats operate.
We get along. Thank you, everybody.
That's exactly what she said. Transparency? No. Trump said transparency. She didn't want to have anything to do with transparency. The Daily Mail in the UK said Trump in extraordinary Oval Office shouting match with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer as he threatens to shut down the government to get his wall built. And they call him a Pinocchio and tell him elections have consequences. Really? That's how he got to the Oval Office. Elections have consequences. Okay, here's another story. This is another happy story. But before I get to this other happy story, that's called a tease, let's go here and then we'll be right back. Folks, you're listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin, live and direct right here from the SHR Media Network studio on the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. Thanks for listening.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
So America will spend this week saying goodbye.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz.
Hey girls, Carry Girl Gear is here. More and more women every day are concealed carrying, participating in competitive shooting, and getting firearms training. It's not a boys' club anymore, and we don't have to shop in their stores anymore either. Finally, a cool and unique clothing line just for women. Dope tees and hats for the patriotic concealed carry and 2A girl. So what are you waiting for? Go check out carrygirlgear.com today.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
The new show on the SHR Media Network, Sackheads Against Tyranny. On shrmedia.com. Go there quick like a bunny, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Wednesday. Live and direct on the SHR Media Network. shrmedia.com. Be there.
For 50 years, I've seen the American people blinded by corrupt politicians, a lapdog media, and deceptive Islam. The one thing the elites fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through Spreaker, iTunes, and SoundCloud, through SHR Media and the Western Free Radio Network, for half a century of experienced perspective on political and social issues, weekly on The Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capitol, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad. Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
We are in the second hour of the Saloon. You're listening to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, right here from the SHR Media Studios, just east of the locus of evil in Sacramento, the Bill Mill, the Capitol building in California here. And I want to let you know that as of January 1st, 2019, I'm making a little bit of an early announcement for this, the show is going to be changing. And maybe people are saying something similar to, what? Yeah, the show is going to be changing. I'm not going to tell you in what way, but it'll be, I don't know, maybe something kind of like this.
And now for something completely different.
And something completely different will happen as of 2019. Same bat time, same bat channel. Might change a little bit. Now let's continue with happy stories and good times. This is from Breitbart. Lindsey Graham to Trump. Dig in. Do not give in on the border wall. So is that Lindsey Graham saying something similar to... hey, if you got to shut down the government, you got to shut down the government. On this week's broadcast of Fox News Channel Sunday Morning Futures, Senator Lindsey Graham, a Republican, South Carolina, advised President Donald Trump not to give in on his demand for $5 billion in border wall funding. Graham said, if I were the president, I would dig in and not give in on additional wall funding. I want the whole $5 billion because the caravan is a game changer. Bingo. Exactly. Thank you, Lindsay. Oh, that was bad. Let's try that again. Good. Better resonation. He continued, after the caravan, if you don't see the need for additional border security, you're not just paying much attention. So, Mr. President, dig in. Don't give in when it comes to the wall. Absolutely. 100%. Here's another happy story. And again, this falls under Schadenfreude because this I find wonderful. From DC Clothesline, the headline is, pro-gun control, Dick's Sporting Goods sales are down, and old Dickies look like he's going to have to close 35 stores. Actions have consequences, and Dick's Sporting Goods is discovering what its gun control virtue signaling costs. But Dick's billionaire chairman and CEO, he doesn't give a hoot. He doesn't care. How wonderful to be able to have such independence that you really don't care if you lose 35 stores. And all those employees in those stores, by the way, they can all go to hell. Oh, hey, Merry Christmas. We're closing your store. Dick's first modified its gun sales policy in the wake of the Sandy Hook false flag shooting, saying it would no longer sell AR-15s and certain other semi-automatic rifles. But Dick's quickly circumvented its pledge by opening the outdoor-focused Field and Stream chain. After the mass shooting last February at the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, Dick's was the first business in the U.S. to clamber on board the ensuing March for Our Lives gun control movement by declaring they would stop selling assault rifles and high-capacity magazines, and they would bar the sale of guns to those under age 21 and hire their own. They didn't just stop selling. Hey, welcome to Simone in chat. Good to see you there. They wouldn't just stop selling. Oh, no, they're going to go further and massive, expensive virtue signaling on this one. They're going to hire their own gun control lobbyists to push for stricter gun laws nationwide. At the time, Dick's paradoxically predicted that although the move, it might hurt sales, it would also draw more shoppers to its stores. in August, now Dick's admitted that sales at stores open for at least 12 months tumbled by a bigger than expected 4% during the second quarter. But Chairman and CEO Edward Stack put on a brave face, insisting he was confident sales would turn around. Alas, Dick's Sporting Goods sales are continuing to drop, such that the company may soon close down their entire Field and Stream chain of 35 stores across 18 states. So good, CEO Edward Stack, for deciding that you're going to be the CEO in control of losing money for your board and also making sure that, hey, right around Christmas time, nothing says love like shuttering 35 stores. Ah, that is a happy story. Here's another story. This is from I Love My Freedom. The headline goes like this: the media won't show you, and this is what I call the American media maggots, and you've known me saying that for quite some time. The media won't show you the latest food stamp numbers under President Trump. So here they are. I found them for you. The latest data from the U.S. Department of Agriculture shows that more than 3.5 million people have dropped off food stamps since President Donald Trump's first month in office, and the mainstream media is nowhere to be found on this story. And there's a reason that the right-leaning media said, oh, that's right, Barack Hussein Obama, and he admitted it, and he loved it. He embraced it. He was the food stamp president. Now, I found that Breitbart says, they quote the USDA. The USDA shows that 38,577,141 Americans received benefits through the SNAP program, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, otherwise known as food stamps, in September 2018. In February 2017, a reported 42 million Americans had been receiving SNAP benefits, food stamps. Since Trump took office less than 2 years ago, Americans who received benefits through SNAP have declined for 11 straight months. And the stats are all there. There's a whole bunch of them, and I'm not going to read them, but I'd say that's a happy story. Now, sometimes when I say happy story and good times, and I mention the word schadenfreude, I can't really describe it. You'll have to look it up on your favorite search engine, SCHADENFREUDE. It's a German term. Here's one where it actually exceeds schadenfreude and goes, it broaches the border of gloat. So, okay, I'll admit it. This is BZ gloating. This is from the Washington Examiner. Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals judge faces sexual misconduct charges by 6 women. Huh, isn't that amazing? Oh, but no, that can't be right. Leftists don't do that kind of stuff, and especially leftists not in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals over on the left coast out of San Francisco, or maybe it's Shat Francisco, because in Sacramento it's Shatramento. Here's the story. 6 women who worked in the office of Judge Alex Kozinski. Let me spell this for those people who want to say hi to Judge Alex, A-L-E-X, Kozinski, Kozinski, a member of the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, have accused him of sexual misconduct, according to a report published last Friday evening. 2 women spoke on the record with the Washington Post, while the other 4 would not allow their names to be shared. One of the women, Heidi Bond, said the judge showed her porn on multiple occasions. Hey, what a great way to win women over, right? Including pictures of naked college-age students at a party and a flip book, which a woman's naked body parts had to be matched up to the corresponding bodies. She said she worked as a clerk for Kozinski from 2006, 2007. Boom, you evil right-wingers. Boom, you evil right-wingers. Emily Murphy alleged Kozinski once tried to convince her and other clerks to work out while naked after she mentioned that the court's gym appeared to be regularly used by the employees. An unidentified woman said Kozinski looked her up and down in a less than professional way and discussed a female judge stripping. Happy stories and good times. But wait, there's more. This I did see come out and I did hear some outlets mention this. Okay, it was Fox News, right? This is from specifically the Pew Research Center. And no, not the pew, pew, pew from guns, but the Pew Research Center. This is the headline. Many worldwide oppose more migration. Oppose more migration, both into and out of their countries. Wait a minute. Isn't it every leftist, every member of the LDAM, leftists, Democrats, and the American media maggots who say that if you do it, if you oppose more migration into your country, you're evil, you're racist. But that's not what the polls show. As the number of international migrants reaches new highs, people around the world show little appetite for more migration. But don't you think that was kind of intuitive? I'd say it's intuitive. People want to live in their own countries. That shouldn't be a shock, should it? They have little appetite for more migration both into and out of their countries, according to a Pew Research Center survey of 27 nations conducted in the spring of 2018. That's not even now. That's not even considering the riots that are occurring in Paris, that are spreading over Europe, into Sweden, into the Netherlands. Soon coming to a country named Germany for you. Also, by the way, has moved over into Greece. Oh, that's sad. Across the countries surveyed, a median of 45% say fewer or no immigrants should be allowed to move to their country. Stop. Let me repeat that again. 45%, almost half, say fewer or no immigrants should be allowed to move into their country. 36% say they want about the same number of immigrants. This is the telling part. Just 14% say their countries should allow more immigrants. Those who said no immigrants should be allowed who volunteered this response. This is kind of interesting how this breaks down. In Europe, I'm not going to go through all the stats. I mean, you're getting really inside baseball. But a little bit of this. In Europe, majorities in Greece, 82%, Hungary, 72%, Italy, 71%, and Germany, 58%, say fewer immigrants or no immigrants at all should be allowed to move to their countries. Let me say this. Let me throw this out there. I got to ask you this question. Why is it that it seems, you correct me if I'm wrong, that the people that hate the West, the people that hate Western culture, it's all the Western nations that others, non-Westernized, those are the nations they want to go. And they're the first to complain that, oh, this nation isn't like my nation, so I know I'm going to do my very level best to make sure that it's exactly like the crappy nation, the shithole that I left. That's funny. How does that work? Here's another story. Oh, wait a minute. Now, oh gosh, I've only got about 6 minutes left, but I am going to transition over to this area now. Wait a minute, that's not the one that I wanted. Where is my news? Oh, son of a gun. Okay, I don't see it right now. Well, we're going to go directly over to news. That was it for Happy Stories right now. This story, and it might be my last tonight, there's been a massive debate for many years about the question of autism and where does autism come from? And you and I both know that we intuit that autism appears to and has exploded over the past number of years, 10 years plus. A new article just came out that said that CDC data, the Center for Disease Control, the compiler of all of this data essentially, CDC data reanalysis shows that there is a strong statistically significant relationship between MMR vaccine and autism. Wait, wasn't that exactly the opposite of what you were told? Here are the main points from this reanalysis. The rate of autism diagnoses has increased alarmingly in the U.S. and is about 25% higher in black children. Boys are far more likely than girls to receive this diagnosis. As early as 2001, the CDC and Prevention CDC had data showing an increased rate of autism diagnoses in black male school children in Atlanta who received their first measles, mumps, rubella vaccination before 36 months of age. There are vaxxers and anti-vaxxers, and the debate continues. I continue with this article. The original publication concerning the data downplayed the association, and no follow-up was continued. Now, there's a doctor named, There's a doctor named Hooker who noted that the CDC deviated from its original data analysis plan, possibly because of unwanted results. The relationship loses its statistical significance if the analysis is restricted to children with a Georgia birth certificate, which decreases the sample size by about 40%. So Dr. Hooker reanalyzed the same data set using the same methodology of conditional logistic regression, but didn't exclude children lacking a Georgia birth certificate. In other words, he increased the volume. By stratifying data for African American males by birth year, Dr. Hooker also found a statistically significant higher rate of an autism diagnosis in children who had received the first MMR vaccine 1 year earlier, only in children born in 1990 or later. Thimerosal exposure increased in the early 1990s, and it was not removed from most pediatric vaccines until 2001-2004. Dr. Hooker suggests the possibility that there may be some interaction between increased mercury exposure and early MMR vaccination. Further study would be needed to explore this possibility. Dr. Hooker's peak was sparked, basically, he says, by communications with a CDC whistleblower, a senior scientist who had retained some of the original analyses. Dr. Hooker concludes that failure to follow up on these observations represents a huge lost opportunity to understand possible reasons for the enormous increase in this devastating neurological disability. So it's like, okay, you can't trust politicians anymore, and you can't trust the FBI. You sure as hell can't trust the state of California. You can't trust the alphabet agencies. You can't trust the American media maggots. And from climate change and the people that are the portion of the religious left, that's science, allegedly. Well, it's becoming more and more clear that you can't trust them. And now, if you can't trust scientists to abide by the scientific theory and not preordain the results, who can you believe anymore?
Monsieur has been locked!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, I got to thank you for listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct right here on the SHR Media Network. If you want to contact me, you can find me on Twitter at BZEP, at BZEP, and on my blog at bloviatingzeppelin.net. Promotional consideration by the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works and the Boeing Company. If it ain't Boeing, I ain't going. Also, tiaras by My Little Pony. Hey, and also Pratt & Whitney. Thanks to Pratt & Whitney, Thrust, you can trust. Thanks to my personal KC-135 Kettle One refueling team with whom I shall be consorting in less than an hour. Oh, you ever hear of the Zepworks? Oh, the Zepworks. They're coming in January. What is the Zepworks? Thanks to Captain Ed Enos. Thank you ever so kindly for listening live. Thanks for being in chat. Thanks for listening in podcast. I appreciate each and every one of you for taking the time out of your busy day or night to do this. No Sackheads Against Tyranny tomorrow night. I will be back on Thursday with Professor Michael Jones. We're going to talk about the Constitution. Oh, and a lot more. Good night. Take care. God bless.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children. Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night.
Good night, Jim Bob. Go to sleep.
Good night, and good luck.